When a cheater is caught, sometimes the cheated partner gives them the chance at reconciliation, and in some of these cases, actually ignoring some red flags. On this point, this one's from user Mute City Racer, an attempt at reconciliation. Like most, I've lurked here for some time. I found great comfort in reading the views and opinions of everyone here while I was considering reconciliation and even throughout the attempt. It helped me to understand others were going through similar experiences, and more importantly, coming out the other side, sometimes alone, sometimes together, but always with scars. I ended my reconciliation attempt at the start of January 2019, just after Christmas. Here's my story. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 38 female, and I, 34 male, have been together since 2005. We moved in together after a year or so and began our lives together. Over the course of our relationship, I purchased our first home, had 2 beautiful children, got married, moved to a proper family home, and were seemingly happy. Looking back in reflection, there were red flags, pretty significant ones at that. Over the course of the relationship, I would often, every 6 months or so, make a discovery that she had been sexting other men via social media and chat apps. The earliest I have recorded being in 2010, before we were married. I trusted her, so believed the excuse that she needed to feel validated. Her insecurities drove her to it, but it was nothing more than that. It wouldn't happen anymore. I'm all she needed, all she wanted. D-Day for me was February 2018. A few months prior to D-Day, I found some pretty graphic messages that heavily implied she was having a relationship outside of our marriage. I confronted her, and she told me she had been seeing someone strictly as a friend, nothing more. Oddly, I recognized the name as someone she had been sexting back in 2008-2009. I wrote her letters, begged for the truth, but was always told that she would never do that to me. Back to February, and I just could not be with her anymore. Always wondering, always in the dark, not knowing what really happened. I was tired of playing detective. I asked for a divorce. She said she didn't want that, but she could understand why I would, and agreed. She went away for a week with the children. I stayed home. Despite being separated, she still did not admit anything more than friendship. Again, I begged for honesty. After all, what difference would it make now? We are moving on with our lives. Again, I was met with innocence. D-Day came 2 days after she left for the week. I recalled her having a very close friend, a friend that used to go out drinking with her, a friend that disappeared off the face of the earth a few years back. I called her. What transpired was the most surreal telephone call I have ever had. The friend told me everything she knew. She had been sleeping with guy A in 2008-2009, a one-night stand shortly after guy B, and another completely new guy for several months, guy C, just months after our wedding day. I was devastated, angry, and relieved to know the truth finally. Such a mix of emotions to go through in the space of a 30-minute conversation. I got in my car and drove to her. We shouted at each other, vented, then had a discussion. She admitted to what I knew. She didn't know why she was doing it, and she didn't want to split from me. She loved me. She also admitted that she was in fact having a relationship again with the same guy A from 10 or so years ago. After days of arguing, talking, crying, we decided to try and reconcile. We came home, went through individual counselors, her to understand why, me to understand betrayal. This continued throughout the year. We spoke about events many times over the year. I needed to know everything so I would be able to draw a line under it and move on. She promised I knew everything. At times throughout that year of reconciliation, I noticed some odd things, little red flags that could be innocent, but I decided to listen to my gut this time round. I called a guy D, that I know she had visited once a couple of years ago, but was adamant nothing ever happened. He picked up. I asked what happened that night, and he told me everything. They were dating for months. She had told him we were separated and divorcing, and I didn't live at home. She slept in my bed, met my children, spent the night, never used protection. It was a total shock to the system. She dumped her after a few months as he didn't believe she was single. She noticed my pictures in my house, my laundry in the laundry bin, my brand new car I'd bought her, even though she didn't work. She put two and two together and got out of there. He was sorry. He didn't know me to contact me as I don't do social media. Moved away and was in a relationship abroad. I confronted her, didn't explain I had spoken to Daidi, but asked her again if anything happened there. She denied. I told her I had spoken to him and she validated what he had told me, with the addition that she never used protection with any of the others either, and that Guy A had been recently sleeping with her in my bed. She begged me to stay, begged me not to throw everything away. I made my decision. I needed to get through Christmas for the kids, then I'm calling it. My reconciliation ended 11 months after D-Day. I would have hoped we could divorce amicably, but it seems I am to blame for not trying hard enough. All I care about now is being the best father I can be to my children and making sure they have a good role model to look to. The weight of my shoulders is immense. I feel free, despite the fact we have only just started working through the divorce. Though I have had the wool pulled over my eyes for the last 13 years, I feel like I have got to this stage a stronger person and really looking forward to what the future brings. It couldn't be any worse, could it? Well, I'm yet to DNA test the kids, so yes, it could be worse, I'm sure. But whatever the outcome, I'm still their dad and always will be. If you made it this far, thanks. I hope this helps someone in the same way other stories have helped me. These bought the Cliff Notes. Too much more drama to squeeze into a post. Maybe I'll save the extras for a follow-up one day. My message? Trust your gut. Well, it'll be good for you for having the guts to call it instead of, trying to stretch it longer and get over the red flags and try to keep reconciling with someone who clearly sucks. Honestly, cheated with multiple people with no protection? Putting your life in harm's way like that? That's just gross. And the fact that she blamed you for not trying hard enough? That she begged you not to throw everything away when that's exactly what she did multiple times with so many people. All I have to say about her is yuck. However, that's not the end of this story because we still have 2 more updates to go through. So let's continue with the first one now. Those of you that read my previous post will know that I've had a good number of years living life completely oblivious to the fact my soon-to-be ex-wife had been sleeping with and having relationships with several other men. 5 I have evidence of, and subsequent confession, and several more unknowns. As much as I pressed for one, I was never given firm timelines for the earliest affairs. I know she was sexting people in 2010 and had been sleeping with at least one of these men in 2009, but that's all I know for before 2013. My children were born in 2011. I've asked, begged even, if the children are mine. Of course they are. Why would I ever do that to you? Why wouldn't I just get a termination and keep it from you if they weren't? Fair points, but I can't help remember how she took the pregnancy at the time. I was told she was pregnant over the phone while at work. I rushed home excitedly. We'd been trying for a while. We were excited. When the first scan rolled around, we anxiously awaited for the nurse to see us in. When the nurse told us there were 2 heartbeats, identical twins of that, I was ecstatic. I turned to my soon-to-be ex-wife, who was bawling her eyes out, inconsolable almost. I wondered why. "How will I cope?" she said. I understood at the time. Pregnancy was pretty normal, no major issues. The babies were born and she rejected them immediately. Didn't attempt to breastfeed them, didn't want to be alone with them. Spent 5 days in the hospital barely getting to know them. Depression I felt. It's a lot to go through. It was an emergency C-section, too. C-section. I got to meet them first while she recovered from the general anesthesia. I thought I'd understood her reaction. Much later, possibly 5 years even, she went on to tell me she never loved them. Not till much later in their tiny little lives. How? Why? I can genuinely say with all my heart that love at first sight is real. It's what I felt when the nurse took me into the ward and introduced me to my girls, swaddled together in the same cot, so tiny, 4 pounds for each of them. Then there was the life-ending attempt in 2012, 1 year after the girls were born. I was out. She and the girls were home. The girls were in bed in their cot when I found her on the sofa with a bottle of wine and 2 packs of pills. My mom and best friend were with me. The explanation I got for this during our reconciliation was she was depressed over the affairs and thought I deserved better. Why then did she recover and go on to form at least 3 more affairs? It's only now, 1 year past D-Day, that I look back and realize that this could be absolutely normal, but it could also be wrong. There's doubt in my mind, doubt caused by her past actions and deceit, making me doubt the paternity to my own children. How could anyone ever do that to another person? The DNA results arrive Wednesday. However, from my point of view, I'm their dad, irrespective of the result that I need to know. Part of it is for my own sanity, and the other part, I think, is a side effect of how my life has been the last couple of years. Always discovering something new, something a little worse than before. Part of me is still stuck in that mindset, that there must be something worse. My counselor is really helping with this. Update, they're mine. Thank you to everyone who has commented with support and advice. To say it has been an awful wait is an understatement, but I can rest easy now. For the immediate future, I'm away with work and have a rugby match to attend at the weekend, so we'll be making the most of a few days away. Then, back to my girls and full steam ahead with the divorce. OP, I know that in my last comment about your soon-to-be ex-wife, I said yuck, but I'm gonna change that to despicable, like Daffy Duck used to say. And I'm not gonna call her any more names or this video would be even longer. I'm not even gonna go near the fact that she didn't love her own children for the first few years of their lives. Well, anyways, it's time for us to move to the final update. I'll preface this by saying, although I've learned a lot during my journey, a lot about myself, a lot about my children, a lot about the people in my life, I'm not done learning yet. Thank you all who have supported me through many uncertain times, and while I've made it through the thick of it, I still find myself picking up on new things fairly often. I haven't posted an update in a year, so here it is in the hope that it can help provide some help back to the community. This is going to be a series of 2 updates. 1. Irony isn't lost on me. Those familiar with my story may remember that my D-Day was February 14th, 2018, Valentine's Day. What followed was near enough a year of me trying to reconcile with my newly appointed knowledge that my now ex-wife was a serial cheater and a chronic narcissist. Reconciliation ended in January 2019 when I filed for divorce. Many things happened in that year of reconciliation, mostly bad, some good. We had a nice holiday to the USA with the kids and family. I did well at work. Kids were doing well at school. I had a new kitchen installed for my house. Phone numbers kept popping up in call history for one of the affair partners. Driving past one of the affair partner's girlfriend's house. Rug sweeping. In the end, I called time on it. I didn't want to live always looking over my shoulder. Now ex-wife tainted all the memories of the good times we had together. I felt nothing for her. Indifference. My divorce was final on February 14th, 2020. Valentine's Day. Exactly 2 years to the day of D-Day. 2. Post-separation self-worth. When I separated and instructed my solicitor in January 2019, I did everything I could to get back some of the self-worth that had been lost over the past few years. Pretty much all the advice I had seen on this sub. Some worked really well. I went to the gym and ate well, lost nearly 2 stone of weight, and went from a size 38-inch waist to 34-inch. This was probably the biggest contributor to my happiness at the time. I felt happy with my weight for the first time in years. I got a whole new wardrobe. Gone were the joggers and scruffy tees. Bought some nice new clothes that fit well and made me feel good. I've never been into fashion, but it's amazing what a new wardrobe can do for your self-esteem. Besides, I'm follically challenged, shaved head, so it's not like I could go out and get a new haircut. Got onto internet dating. This one cost me my first challenge. Internet dating was a first for me. I'd been in my relationship for over 13 years, so I missed the whole internet dating boom. With my fresh wardrobe and newly acquired dad bod, I prefer the term father figure. I put myself out there. I met a few people, had a whole lot of fun, which helped my self-esteem. However, I did find I had issues in the beginning with erectile dysfunction. This took me by surprise, as I've never experienced it in the past and have always been highly driven. I never quite got to the bottom of the why, but I figured it was performance anxiety. I ended up getting a couple of boxes of pills from the doctor, which helped. After the first couple of times, the anxiety subsided, and now, no more issues. I spent lots of quality time with my kids. This was a no-brainer. I knew a hard discussion was coming up with them, so threw myself into daddying like never before. This was and still is when I'm at my happiest. Another challenge coming up. And we did everything from trips away camping and caravanning to trips out locally for fun. We were out of the house first thing in the morning and back last thing at night. They loved this, and I used the opportunity to better myself as a dad. However, now ex-wife sees this. She knows this is how she can make me hurt. I met my now significant other, funnily enough, through Tinder. By this point in time, I was in a good position mentally to move into a relationship. And although at the time my divorce wasn't final, and now ex-wife and I were still cohabiting, we both went into the relationship with total transparency and honesty, and she was fortunately very patient and understanding, something I'd long forgotten existed. My solicitor emailed me my divorce completion on Valentine's Day, while I was on a break with my girlfriend in Paris. We had a drink to celebrate. I hope the irony isn't lost on the now ex-wife. It isn't lost on me. Well, OP, you made it through. You survived a crappy relationship with a serial cheater and chronic narcissist. Not only that, but you also strengthened your relationship with your children, which is fantastic. And you're in the right headspace that allows you to be in a relationship with somebody that actually appreciates you. All good news. You're like Andy Dufresne. You crawled through half a mile of crap to become a free man at the end of it. I wish you and your significant other and your children all the best in the upcoming future. All right, and on that note, let's move on to the next story. I don't think it's a normal occurrence, but have you ever flashed your in-laws? Well, this one's from user Throwaway Surprise 111. Today I effed up by trying to surprise my boyfriend and accidentally flashing his parents in the process. Last week, my 24 female, boyfriend, 28 male, and I got into an argument about which one of us puts in the most effort to keep things adventurous intimately. He argued that 90% of the time, it's him. I told him that I didn't think that was true, and he responded that not once in the 3 years we'd been together have I ever caught him off guard intimately. I told him that he was gonna eat his words, and the next time I proposed sleeping together, it would be a surprise. Now, I knew that he was going to be expecting something after that, so I decided today would be the best day to do it. The reason being is that his parents were coming to visit from out of town, and when they do, I'm way too stressed out to even think of being intimate, so I knew he wouldn't be expecting anything. He told me that he would be home from work at 4 and they would be arriving at 7ish. Perfect. That would give us some time to do the deed, clean up, and then have ourselves a little secret for when the in-laws visit. So I set myself up on the living room couch, which was a clear view from the door, wearing only a pair of heels. I decided to put some porn on the TV, which I never typically watch, and touch myself to it so when he came in, he would surely be surprised. I had my head tipped back when the door opened, and all I heard were gasps. I looked up, and standing there was my boyfriend and his parents. I flipped over and scrambled for a blanket to cover myself and heard the door slam. I checked my phone and saw that my boyfriend had texted me that his parents had left earlier to avoid traffic. He came home a few hours later and was extremely angry and is convinced I did this to get back at him for saying I don't try hard enough. Dinner with the in-laws is going to be a bit awkward. Ouch, OP, that's, I guess, all I have to say about this one. Eesh. But if you're curious as to know what happened at dinner, well then let's continue with the update right away. Hi everyone, I got a lot of requests to do an update, so here it is. But first, I just want to say thank you to everyone who helped me see an embarrassing situation as something that would be a great story one day. I'm happy that the most horrifying moment of my life could make some of you guys smile. I also want to say thank you to those who said I ripped off that one Friends episode. I might be one of few people on the planet who hasn't watched Friends, but I checked it out and definitely laughed. I was a little bummed out reading some of the comments about my boyfriend. I promise you all, he's a really great guy, and he was just in so much shock that he didn't react the best. I don't really blame him though. Anyways, on to the update. The night my in-laws walked in on me, they were supposed to stay for dinner and then go back to the hotel they were staying at. After I was caught in the act, my boyfriend and them left and went back to their hotel. He said it was a very quiet car ride. When he got back a few hours later, we got into a fight where he questioned my motives and accused me of purposely getting caught to prove a point. I denied it and the argument ended there. He slept on the couch that night. The next morning, I woke up and he had made breakfast for us. He apologized to me and basically explained that he was so embarrassed and in shock that he didn't know what to think. He said that he did appreciate the effort though, and that had his parents not been there with him, he would have jumped me. I apologized for surprising him at an inappropriate time and for not checking my phone. I then asked him what his parents thought about all of it. He told me that they weren't angry at all and that they decided not to come for dinner because they didn't want me to be uncomfortable and they thought it'd be best to give us the night to sort things out. He told me that they did intend to come for dinner tonight, which I told him I didn't think I was up for quite yet. He understood and called his mother to let her know. I didn't hear much of the conversation, but it ended with him handing me the phone saying, "She wants to talk to you." As soon as I got on the phone, I started profusely apologizing and telling her that it wasn't my intention for them to see that. She just laughed and said, "I imagine it wasn't," and said that embarrassing things happen, especially in front of family, and that they would never hold something like that against me, but that I would never live it down. She then proceeded to tell me of the many times my boyfriend and his brother had walked in on them doing the dirty, which was uncomfortable but kind of comforting. She then said that she and her husband were really looking forward to dinner and wondered if I'd reconsider. I realized that I was going to have to see them at some point and that it would be crappy of me to not have them over after they drove all this way to see us. So I agreed. They came over. It was awkward. But after a few jokes about if the couch was steamed clean and if the adult movie I was watching was included in our cable package, everything went really well. Well, OP, all I've got to say is you've got pretty cool in-laws, particularly your mother-in-law. Very opposite to the other mother-in-laws I'm used to reading about in this channel. So I'm guessing that apart from the obvious embarrassment, this is now a shared story you guys have.